Hello, everyone. It's Angel back and the realm of shadow and light back again for another episode of Hidden and Unseen Society of Practitioners with Crystal and special guest Sarah. And welcome back, everybody. We have Crystal and Sarah today. I'm so excited to have you guys with me. How are you guys doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Angel?
I'm good, thank you.
And I am also doing pretty good.
Awesome. All right, so I have a question for you guys. Have you guys seen Wicket yet?
The movie?
The movie, yeah.
So I have not seen the movie. I've read the book and I've seen it live at a performing arts center that I used to go to for college.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really different, the portraying of, how everything runs, how actually the sisters really became and how they're not actually sisters. So anyway, just stop me right now. But I've never seen the movie yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have my doubts on the movie.
Not seen the movie. I have watched a lot of YouTube reviews on the movie and like discussion debates on the movie, but I have not actually seen the movie.
I haven't seen the movie, but I read the book, and I do want to put a disclaimer out there for anybody who have children that's seen the movie. Do not buy the original book because it's not for children. It definitely has a lot of adult themes in it.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that one.
No.
There's some things that definitely need to be kind of pulled back when it comes to the younger generation or the younger children, I should say.
Yeah, because it opens up with basically, we can't say the word for YouTube, a very adult-themed clock tower coming into town is how the book opens up.
Well, at least the movie's not portrayed in that sense, too. They definitely reeled it back so that way they, kids can watch it more and, get that feel for it, which I think is kind of nice, But at the same time, there's so many movies and TV shows that really change the perspective of witchcraft and just even a spiritualist in general, let alone a practitioner. So, I mean, it's nice, you know what I mean? But at the same time, the whole movie and TV thing just drives me insane with how they portray us and what we really are. I don't know. Do you agree? Or is it just me?
I have a lot to say on that, so I'll let Sarah go.
I definitely agree, especially given a majority of what I watch is in the horror, psychological thriller category of TV and movies. Is mostly what I watch. And I will notice there's a lot of times where witches or witchcraft are brought up or different divination tools, and it always shines like such a bad light. And like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we're including some things in the movie. But then on the other hand, I'm like, okay, but does it need to be done in such a bad way?
So, okay, let's bring this up to Sarah, Angel. So we talked about this in I think maybe our last live or the one before that we did. But what do you think of the movie Tarot? Have you seen it?
Yes, I have seen it. Pretty much any random horror movie on Netflix, I've probably seen it. With the Tarot movie, originally, I was like, okay, like, this seemed intriguing. I was like, a horror movie about tarot cards. Let me dive into it. And then the second she found the tarot cards, I was like, okay, why are we picking them up? Why are we playing with them? You're in a house in the middle of the woods and you play with the tarot cards. Like, ooh, this is very classic Hollywood right here. Mm-hmm. And so I like the fact that they had the tarot cards and she like sat down and did the readings. Like, I really enjoyed that part of the movie. But then what I didn't enjoy is that the tarot cards started making everybody die. I felt like that was a really like unrealistic, and it kind of rubbed me the way that Ouija, the movie Ouija.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It kind of rubbed me that way, where I'm like, okay, we're trying to make people terrified of a divination tool when there's no need to be. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, like, I really enjoyed when she like did the readings, and I kind of liked the description of the cards and like showing the cards and stuff like that.
So we should kind of give them a little highlight. If you guys haven't heard Sarah and Angel's last podcast, Sarah is one of the witches or practitioners that specializes in tarot for our group, Unseen Witch Society. So she does a lot of information and breakdown on each like tarot card and the representation, different ways you can use it. So just give you a little heads up, she is really, really into her tarot. So she knows her stuff when it comes to this movie too. But but going back on with that, you're not wrong. I always got so mad, like we said in the last one, just how they depict it's such a negative vibe, and it just kind of makes you fear using tarot cards when, in all honesty, it's nothing even like that. Now, did I enjoy, though, how they came as a picture form and, manifested into death? Yes. Because it gave it that shadow dark side of, like what could be problem-wise. Like the Tower card would be a great example, of, everything falling down around you and just ending it. Like, ending. But then it's, a lot of people are like, oh, the tarot card. Okay, yeah, it's such a horrible thing. It's actually a great card to get because now you have to build yourself back up from the rubble of however it came down. So the movie, when they depicted all the cards and actually like showed how they died, I really did enjoy that part. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was fun.
Yeah, from like an analytical point of view, I really liked how it manifested, how the imagery of the card manifested its way into their real life. I really enjoyed it. They did a great job depicting that. And like when you know the cards, it made it easier to like sort of predict how they were going to go with that, because like I could see like kind of maybe how they would generically take it and go with it, sort of like with the Tower card or with the Hanged Man card.
Ooh,
like
yeah.
I saw that coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and I was like, yeah, I told you so. Because I was watching I was watching the movie with my boyfriend, who is not spiritual with witchcraft, but he, like, appreciates that that's what I do. And so, like, I was, like, calling things in the movie before it was going to happen.
And that's the best, because we just know. We're like, okay, yep, seen that one coming. Yeah, that was there. So if you think about these movies that they're doing, it's nice and refreshing that they did their research. Because a lot of times they're just going off of some person that's like, yeah, this is a bad thing. This is a bad divination tool. And they don't even know it's a divination tool. They just think it's, demon worship or it's, the tool to contact them. So the fact that they do the research on that is refreshing. But not all of the movies and all the TV shows are like that. They're really not. It's that one person's perspective that drives me insane when it comes to movies and TV shows.
I did mention the movie Ouija. Have either of you two seen that? It's a little older.
Yeah, I did see that. I like it, but I mean, I like horror movies too. I don't like how demonic they always make it. But any Ouija movie that you're gonna get, they're gonna make it into being a bad tool and not a great divination tool. Like I said in the one time, it ain't any different than tarot, oracle, pendulums, dowsing rods. You open it the same way, you gotta close it the same way. And if you don't do it that way, I mean, that's your own consequence. You should know better before playing with anything. Ooh, I just said playing, as if it's like a toy. Not a toy, but you know what I mean? Like, when you're utilizing it, you definitely have to know what you're doing. Don't just be like, this looks like fun. Hey, come on, let's have a sleepover, and all of us just play with this cute little thing here. Or let's stand in front of the mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times and see what happens. Or how about Candyman? All of that just gets on my nerve. It really does, because there's history behind it. Yeah. It didn't just spawn out of nothing.
Angel and I's last podcast, she pointed out that people a lot of times get scared when they're doing the Ouija board and then never say goodbye and just run away from the board and then just never close it. She was mentioning that in the last podcast episode.
There's always that one thing. They'll hear like a knock. Yep. And they'll be like, oh my God, what was that? What was that? You're like, my gosh, like, it's not that simple, guys. Like, it's not how it actually is portrayed. So yeah, so that stuff that always just cracks me up.
I would be the one that would be like, knock, 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 just to scare them, just because, just to see them run off. What about movies like The Craft?
Are we talking about the original?
The original one. I want to go with the original one.
I've seen that one, so I'm not going to be able to comment on that.
You've never seen the original Craft?
No, but I think I need to now.
I don't recommend the newest one. You have to have the original. The original.
I haven't watched the new one.
Yeah, the original's, it's well done. It depicts the younger generations and how they portray witchcraft, how some of them are all about like beauty, some of them about power, some of them just are so new they didn't even know they had certain type of abilities that are natural to them. It's good because it gives multiple different perspectives, especially each girl has their own reason for doing the craft itself. I just didn't like how one of the main characters, how she just goes crazy at the end because of the power that, she got. Which, but, let me just backpedal myself when I say this. I mean, when you start messing with something, that is powerful. If you're trying to summon a deity or what you think is a deity, but might not necessarily be a deity, could be something very malicious that you don't realize it and you are summoning it. Can you take too much energy in that you can't control right away? Yes. So, I mean, I can see her mind going crazy, you know what I mean? And hearing the voices afterwards. Yeah. But did you do your proper research? Did you properly know how to open and close a circle? Did you even know who you were actually summoning? Did you offer the proper things? You know, so I don't always believe like in proper traditional ceremonial magic, but for big things like that, especially coven style, I do think you have to be a little bit more cautious because, which I think we've talked about this before, when you're working with multiple energies and you can't 100%. Okay, so if the three of us are in a coven and we're opening a circle, okay, we're all focusing the same way. We open it. Then we go to do some magic. Okay, we're doing some energy work or whatever, you know, we're trying to call into something. What I'm actually thinking and what Angel's thinking and what you're thinking, Sarah, is it really going to be the same? Because maybe I'm calling into this deity for one purpose. Maybe Angel has malicious intent. So her thoughts are going to be malicious. And then you got you, Sarah, who might be thinking completely healing. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't really know the energy that's being thrown into your work in a coven setting. So that's why I said, like, you do got to be a little bit more detailed, you know? At least that's, you know, my perspective. See, there goes that rabbit hole every time, guys.
Yeah,
every
no, I
time.
really like agree though. Like with covens, like you have to be so close knit and you have to trust each other because you're so close you can get backstabbed so easily when you're in a place like that. And speaking of covens so much, I have to ask, moving to TV shows, have you watched American Horror Story, the Coven season? Because that's all about witchcraft.
I've only caught like an episode or so. I want to watch it, but I've never actually watched it. It looks intriguing on how they portray the leaders and how the storyline went, but I've never sat down and I watched it.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Oh, so I'm kind of obsessed with American Horror Story in general. I love all of it, but the Coven season specifically, it ties into a later season that I'm now brain farting on what it is. But so originally the Coven season, it goes over, it's about like this house where it's led by I don't remember the term, but the main witch. And she is into bringing all these new witches that have just discovered their ability. Like, there's some that, like, they can injure themselves in some way and it happens to another person. They're like a real-life voodoo doll, basically. And then there's others that, like, do healing and whatnot. But it's basically this house where they take in all of these new witches and they have to, like, work through learning how to, like, control their magic and control themselves and figure out who's going to be, like, the next main witch. And then the last season that includes it, I think, is Apocalypse, but I could be wrong. And it ties back into where they have to reach out to the male witches to, like, save the day. So, but I think it does, I like it for, like, TV show. Obviously, there's some things that I'm like, ooh, that's a little far-fetched. But, like, there's other parts where, like, I really enjoy it. They bring in, like, Marie Laveau, and she's supposed to be, like, the master of voodoo in the show. And, like, they bring in a lot of stuff. And I really enjoy the way that they did it. But, of course, you know, things are dramatized so it's TV. But
What about the traditional movie? What is it called? Practical Magic. Have you guys seen that one?
Now I have to rewatch it. It's been forever since
About the
I've
two
seen
sisters.
It. Yeah.
Who were like polar opposite of each other. Have you seen it?
I've seen like bits and pieces because it was like on the TV, but I've never sat down and like fully watched it.
Yep.
It's a really good, I will give that one some props. They did their research on that too. You can tell though that the research was from an old school practitioner because everything has a consequence. You know what I mean? And that's what I really enjoyed about is like, if you're going to do some heavy, you know, resurrection type of magic, know that you got to give one. If you get one, you got to give one.
Yeah.
So it's like a life for life kind of thing. You know, things don't just happen out of nowhere. You know, that it has to be pulled energy wise from somewhere. And I did enjoy that a lot. I also enjoyed the whole like one sister kind of had it more rough than the other. but then the other sister had it rough in other ways. So I watch it all the way through because for a classic, it's probably one of my favorites as far as how they actually depicted who we really are, because it's very simple. There's no crazy, sparks coming out of the fingertips, you know what I mean? And I'm going to sacrifice your blood and all that. It's just very simplistic. And I love it. Even the house that they lived in was very simple and, dancing around, in the kitchen, drinking a cup of tea, making some brew was fun. So I'll give that one some credit. That one was really good. I did enjoy that one. What about some movies or TV shows that we thought were just like, come on, we're not even close to that? What do you guys think?
Charm.
You think Charm?
Charm. I think Charm. Only because it divides us. It divides it. There's witches and then there's white lighters and stuff like that. And it makes it seem like they're literally different beings. To be a healer, you have to be not human kind of thing. That was my main thing with it. I love the sisters in the coven and stuff like that. But a lot of it was just so much drama, as opposed, especially for those of us that work with demons, it's not like that. I was scared to work with demons because of Charm,
What about you, Sarah? Have you seen Charmed?
I have not seen Charmed. It looked really, really not like something I would enjoy.
Fair
so
enough.
I just didn't watch it.
See, I didn't mind it. I thought it was more of a fantasy world with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't more of a realistic type of show. But I mean, I'll give you
I'm
that.
really picky about TV shows.
Oh no, I get it. I'm the same way. There's a lot that I'm like, no, thank you. Thank you. Come again. No, don't do it.
I'll watch the same things over and over and over again because I know this may happen.
I mean, okay, so when it comes to Charmed, how they did divide, their upper world, I'm gonna call it that. I don't want to call it what they call it, but the upper world and then the underworld and then the plane. It was a little far fetched. It's so white lighters. Okay, we have white workers, light workers all the time too. But why they got to be angels in a form? Things like that. So I get it. I do. I'm trying to think. What is there another
popular movie, The Conjuring. I don't particularly love the way that they do the whole Bathsheba thing because, if you look into it, there's no way to know if Bathsheba was a witch or not. You can't.
She wasn't.
Say that. She wasn't. Yeah, when you research it, she wasn't. And her grave gets destroyed and stuff because of the movie. And I hate the way that they made that. She's trying to stab her her child and all of this crazy stuff that they do in the movie. Not big. I like the Conjuring movie from a horror movie stance, but I do not like the Conjuring movie for the way that they did.
I don't think she even had children. The Warrens is a whole rabbit hole for me. Because I was so devastated to find out that so much of that's made up. Because now that they're both passed away, the NDAs, I guess, are going, they don't have them anymore. And families are literally they hired people to write stuff, or the kids were led to believe it, which kind of devastated me because I'm so passionate about the spiritual stuff being authentic that I hate it when I find out somebody, especially somebody that's famous, fake some of this stuff. Amityville wasn't haunted. Because I lost my train of thought. Because ever since the murders happened in that house, nobody's had issues with the house. But according to the movie franchise, you would think this house is just spinning, with all that evil energy, but nothing's happened since that one family.
Paranormal investigation. We should do that sometime.
Yes.
Let's get together and I always thought those are fascinating because I always wanted to go to places because of movies like that, Amityville Horror and stuff. I always did want to go and just see if it's cracked up to be like they say, those hotels that are haunted. We got from where I live, there's a prison. It's called Mansfield Reformatory, and it's supposedly haunted. I did the overnight tour, which it's not really overnight because you still get kicked out at a certain time, but they let you kind of tour it. But they have so much blocked off. With caution tape because it's dangerous, weak spots, in the metal and all that, my gosh, the tiers, the ranges that you have to walk on. And because it's so high, there's so many stacked up tiers and stuff. But I did it, and I think I psyched myself out more than if it really was haunted because they're be careful. They did a lot of, murders here. The medical down here was haunted, or careful on tier 4 because they used to throw inmates over the ranges, which they did. Like, historically, they really did. Inmates would throw other inmates off the range and they would die, obviously, because you got 4 floors they're falling off of before they decided, hey, we should put some higher rails. But I always wanted to tour more places like that, just to be like, I debunk it, just for fun. But at other times, I'm like, I don't know, I might actually get me. I might psych myself out so bad. But have you ever seen, like, have you ever watched, like, any paranormal investigation, like, TV shows and stuff like that? Okay. Yeah. So there was this one where they stayed in a hotel, they set up a camera, and they slept. And so it was all, like, night vision. And there was one where the door literally opened, and I was like, okay, that you can still do that with some string. Okay, whatever. I'm not, not buying it. And then the covers. So I seen the covers literally pull off just the one side of the bed, not the second part of the bed where the other person was sleeping, just the one side. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think logically. Can you pull off bed, like a bed comforter, on just one side? I don't see how you would really have to, like, tie the string, but you wouldn't be able to see the string. My mind was going, I was like, okay, that might actually be somewhat real. Because I just kept sleeping through it. And I was like, okay, I don't know. But I always like to watch those shows. What about you guys? What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah, I love them. If we do investigations, I actually have to turn my senses off because, like, St. Augustine Lighthouse, for example, I talked about this with both Cheyenne and Sarah. 2 children drowned there, and I will actually sense how somebody died. So in that case, I felt the salt water in my nose and I could taste it and stuff like that. I actually, as a medium, do not go into haunted situations with my senses open. I mean, if it's going to be haunted, they're going to come to us anyways because I'm like a big light bulb to them. But yeah, I can't have my senses open because they're going to be like, let me show you how I died, or, stuff like that. And like having taste and stuff, it's really scary. When I went to Salem, I felt somebody being pressed from it. But yeah, I would love to do that. I used to like Ghost Adventures in the early days when I think it was more authentic because I've heard stuff about them staging stuff now that they're later on in the seasons too. I prefer like YouTube channels of amateurs because they have less the chances of staging it than a TV show. Because a TV show needs that to make money. It could be like somebody could be staging. And then there's been times where the person that did it, like the tour, staged it and the company didn't know. Like there was something in the Conjuring house that the tour guide could pop their feet and to make it sound like knocking.
I know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure. So there is I watch a YouTube channel that does paranormal investigations a lot. They're called Sam and Colby. So when they first started, they really didn't have much of an audience, and they would just like explore abandoned places, and you would hear and you would see things, and they would be like, they would kind of creep them out. And they eventually started doing paranormal videos. Now, do I think sometimes things could be kind of staged? No, I could argue that some of them could be. They're still entertaining. But they went to the Conjuring house, and they like met these people that were there. They weren't even supposed to be there. They like didn't know they were there. And their names were Cody and Satori. And they tried to say that anytime that Cody and Satori linked hands, that knocking would happen around them and they could communicate through spirits, basically with like a vocal Ouija board. They would say the ABCs and then the knocking would happen or whatever. And it like made Sam and Colby go like super crazy. They got like really emotional. They like cried and things like that. But then like it later, it was released that any information that they said that they could have very easily researched. And so it created like a big rift because people were like, oh my, that could probably be fake. And then it like later showed and that videos of just Cody by himself were having the knocks happening. And that's why they were talking about it being like ankle popping, which is really similar to, oh my gosh, the sisters. What are their names?
Yeah, I can't think of their names. I was just thinking that too.
It just went out of my mind. But the two sisters that like started the whole like movement because they like were fake, the Fox sisters. They were faking like the bone popping. So that's not what it like made me think of.
It's crazy because they actually had them like in a auditorium and like you could see her put her foot up against his foot because even when he couldn't pop it because they were being, she could like feel it, or like you would see her say something because of the way he was popping. I was like, man, that sucks to have it debunked, especially in some place that you can tell it's haunted. Like that particular house is just creepy. If it's not actually haunted, there's been enough people that believe that they manifested something there. Yeah, yep.
I love that word, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah, I had to say it like that.
I love that word.
Yeah.
But it's true, though, because, manifestation's a huge thing. So the fact that, you believe it enough, it's going to happen. That's why, like, the whole, honestly, Candyman and Bloody Mary, people really can manifest that stuff without realizing, it's not going to actually happen. But you think it hard enough, you believe it hard enough. I mean, for God's sakes, people scare the crap out of themselves by believing in demons. They believe it so hard that, something malicious can still manifest itself. So, sure, I can believe that when it comes to Conjuring House.
Board.
Jeez. Which, mine's just over there. See that little skull?
Mine's right behind me.
Like, mine's right there. Too bad they can't see it, but it's like, yeah, it's right there, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can literally reach mine.
I have a few of them, but that's my favorite one.
This is not related to necessarily TV, but I am so tired of hearing that Taylor Swift is rich because she joined the Illuminati. What do you guys think of, like, secret orders and stuff like that within the government? Like, God forbid somebody actually be rich because she's out there sweating for 3 hours every night during concerts,
That's not the first time I've heard about the Illuminati hitting up celebrities. There's actually a good bit of celebrities that have said, like, I've been contacted with people that are part of the Illuminati, but I don't know, like, secret society, is it a real thing? I 100% do think that they have secret societies, any different than a secret coven. If you really think about it, it just depends on what they do and what their purpose is. Like, a coven can just be a coven of healing. It could be a coven of darker practitioners. It could be just a group of people wanting to learn together. Secret society, are they trying to run the world, or are they trying to control everyone that's in that celebrity category, the rich and the famous? Like, what's the purpose of the Illuminati? Seriously, what's the purpose? Does anyone even really, do we even know? Because I don't know. I mean, I've heard of them a million times. We can Google them and figure it out, I'm sure. But, like, I've heard many, many times about secret societies. I've heard that almost every government in this world, not just where we live, but in the world, has a secret society of practitioners that help them on the spiritual level, help them run the government, help them give, wisdom and knowledge, when it comes to people like us. But at the same time, then there's other secret societies that are just running the government from the back. It's just, I do believe that we do have them, because it ain't any different than a coven that's a secret, which we have those. Right?
Yep. Absolutely. All three of us could be in our own secret covens and you would never know because you can't talk about it.
Ooh, not talking about something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I spill a lot of information without realizing I say a lot of stuff. So, I mean, that would be funny, because I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm part of this secret society.
Me too.
I mean, I'm part of this group of people. I mean,
that does absolutely nothing. What am I talking about?
And how do you honestly, we're going to go down a little rabbit hole when it comes to this. How do you really keep something a secret? How can you put that much trust in someone be able to say, hey, don't talk about it? It's kind of like that Fight Club. What happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club. How do you get people without threatening them, or without, saying, hey, if you...
No, I think it's brainwashing and
it's going to slip out somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of blackmail is my personal opinion. Like, you spill the beans on this, look at all these things I could spill the beans on. And going to what we were talking about with celebrities, I sort of look at them like pawns. Like, they're like faces, they're marketing schemes, they're like the ability to categorize people. Because I feel we're obviously all the strongest when we're united. So it's the best way to not make us be strong is to divide us. Give us fake problems to worry about. Give us people to want us to try to model after them. So if they make all of the faces that everybody wants to be or wants to be with, then they control the narrative. They can sort of, it's like reading the hive's mindset, I feel, to like know where people are and like keep them in check, so to speak, so nobody gets too much power or gets too many crazy ideas. Sort of wanting you to not think for yourself and just think with the hive is sort of how I kind of,
Absolutely.
that's
A
definitely
hive
falling
mind.
down the rabbit hole.
No, I've heard stuff like that with hive minds and stuff like that. I think a lot of it too is that, what was that, Nexium that Alice Mack was in? They had that little side thing that was called Dawes, and they actually had blackmail. And that's how they kept the people, like pictures or admitting to a crime that they never got caught or stuff like that. Even something as simple as sign an NDA, and if you talk about us, we're suing you. So I could see why people would be so quiet about it. But just...
Or being quiet. In our last episode, Angel mentioned, cults and brainwashing. If it's a powerful person and you prey on people that are in a vulnerable mindset, then you can really gain a lot of control. And then once that is like embedded, once their like claws are embedded, then sometimes it's really hard to like get them away.
Yep. Yeah. Because they always say if you want to get somebody out of a cult, I know this isn't the same as a secret society, but it kind of is. If you want to get somebody out of a cult, you do not talk about how negative the cult is. You embrace it and try to show them the way without attacking it, because they're not going to hear it. They're so trained and brainwashed to not hear it that they won't do it. And who knows, like with these secret societies, we don't know about them and nobody comes out about them because these people are truly terrified of what's happening, so they're afraid that somebody may come after them or they're going to have their secrets exposed, and who knows, maybe those secrets are something that will ruin their life.
Or maybe even on the flip side, if you're in a secret society, so to speak, and maybe you're not feeling brainwashed, maybe you feel so empowered and like you are so in control being in that you like really feed off of it. And it's kind of like a snowball effect. You feel powerful and you build and you build and you build. And then if someone comes at you like super negatively, like this is a bad thing, why are you doing that? That's not going to make you change your mind. Just like any person, if you attack their beliefs, that is not the way to get someone to change their mind. You have to come at it with like, I see your perspective. I respect your perspective. Here's how I look at it. What do you think about that? And create an ability for an open, healthy discussion rather than I'm attacking you because this is how you feel and you're wrong, I'm right, you need to think this way.
I mean, you're not wrong, and if you want to break it, think about like how many celebrities that have claimed to be a practitioner or a witch in some form, and then all of a sudden they want nothing to do. Oh, I'm not a witch, I'm not part of it. But yet you said in your music, in your movies, your interviews that you were. And that's why so many people throw that, I'm not, well, because the biggest one was Beyonce. Forever, everyone was like, Beyonce is a witch. She uses dark magic. And she was like, yeah, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So it got debunked pretty quick. But at the same time, because one celebrity says something, bam, everyone thinks they're a witch.
Yeah. Yeah, the same. So it's the opposite, too. Like for Taylor Swift, for example, I think it's 100% her blood, sweat, and tears is going into that. Because I've seen the Eras tour on TV. I couldn't afford it. That girl was out there just dripping, and she gave it her all the way through. So why is it that she had to have sold her soul to the devil, even though I don't believe in that, like, at all, to make money over her working? Like, why is it considered that if you become really, really successful, you are now getting it because of the devil? Why isn't it just, I did it, I put in the work?
Because everyone thinks that you can't be rich and powerful if you don't have someone else helping you on a different spectrum, pretty much. I'm not going to sit there and say you can't do no wealth magic to help you, but it's not just going to throw money at your feet. Like, hey, let me just do this little incantation and throw little dollars and burn them up. And then, bam, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. Yeah, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? You still got to put in the time and the effort. It just kind of gives you a little bit of a boost. But yeah, no, I get it. Like, they automatically think, if you're not part of a secret society or you're not doing extreme dark magic, then, it's all fake. There's no way you can make that kind of money if you're not getting back support in some form instead of just knowing that, hey, I busted my ass the way I needed to. Get it? I mean, to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, why do you think people, the one that I think most about is Kat Vandy. She very much was very open practitioner and stuff like that. What makes them go from that to being like, now I'm a Christian? I mean, I believe she really did have that moment and she went back to Christianity. But why do you think people are so open with their practice and all of a sudden they recall it?
I mean, I can't speak personally on it, and I don't want to say anything wrong because, again, I'm not that person. Something major could have happened to her that threw her in the polar opposite direction, or maybe she wasn't getting enough reassurance in her practice. So she thought that, she needed to flip back to a different side, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Not everyone, and I mean, and I love her, so don't think I don't. But some people just can't live it long term.
Yeah.
It's a small phase. And if you don't see, the proper manifestations or you're not getting the results you want, then they're like, well, all these other people on this side doing this over here seem to have it going well. Let's go back over here and try it. And I mean, like I said, that's the only thing I can personally see is they just weren't getting the results they really were hoping for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like you have to do it a little bit every day to see anything. And then you got to realize sometimes nothing's going to happen. I can't sit there and do wealth magic every day and think it's going to happen every day. I mean, I might get lucky 1 out of 100 times, maybe. But it just comes with a consequence. Like, did I put enough energy into it? Did I try and manifest it properly? Did I think about it hard enough? You know what I mean? Things like that. So I don't know. I do find it interesting that a lot of celebrities or musicians literally flick from heavy spectrum one way and then go all the way to the extreme of the other. And I would like to pick their brain a little bit. I would like to ask, like, why? Like, what made you change? Did something happen? Did you have a, life-altering tragedy or, something that made you really flick that way?
That's what I'm thinking, because it seems like I just had to look it up because I didn't want to say she sold the makeup brand without her actually selling it. I think something must have happened because she definitely was doing her craft right if she was manifesting stuff, because I love that makeup brand, So I wonder if she had something happen in her life that she was just like, I need to go back this other way. Because then you say we had a crone that was the same way, that she was teaching with an unseen, and then she actually went back to Christianity too. So I wonder what happens that affects people to go back to the roots,
So No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think I comment on both things. But with just someone going back to their roots, I feel like sometimes if you grow up one way and you're very comfortable one way, and then you step out of your comfortability, any small bump could maybe happen, and you just feel like you need to run back to your comfortability. It's like it's your home. It's what you started with. So maybe it's what you feel safe doing. So it could just be your life gets really stressful. You don't have a lot of energy. And maybe you just retreat back to like home base. And maybe that person's home base was Christianity or whatever religion that they have. But then on twofold, talking about with celebrities, obviously it can be like a personal thing, but then sometimes it makes me wonder if it's somebody else pulling the strings, because a lot of times celebrities have like certain agendas and like personalities and like boxes that they have to check, so to speak. So it's like, did they decide that, or is this like a string being pulled?
Maybe. Yeah, definitely.
And then Crystal was talking a lot about putting in the work. And then it made me think of when you were talking about practical magic earlier, about how they really showed like that you actually have to give something to get something. And I like that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of people nowadays are really there for fast magic, and you can't just snap your fingers and something happen. Like, you have to actually do something. You have to put things in there. Intention is a lot, but intention is not the only thing.
I agree with you on that one, because you're right. It's a little bit every single day. It's not gonna be fast magic, like you said. And like I said earlier too, it's literally a lifestyle. Every single day you have to do a little bit of something. And it doesn't mean you have to go buy a million books. It doesn't mean you have to go buy all the crystals out there, you know. Doesn't mean you have to go buy the teacups and the teapots and all the herbs. Like, you really don't have to. But if you meditate a little bit every day, if you put the thoughts process every day, and I honestly think a lot of people are afraid. I mean, I'm going to throw that out there. I do think a lot of people are afraid what could happen in making their life better and more light and airy. Like, I know some people said, you know, that witchcraft just doesn't align with who they really want to be. What do you mean? Like, that phrase that I've heard people say multiple times, like, what do you mean? What do you want to be? I mean, even love and light is a form of witchcraft. You know, you can still find healing in witchcraft. It's not, hey, let me go do this money spell. Let me go do this hex, this curse. It's not. I mean, like I did my live earlier when I worked with cultivation of water. It still works the same way. You know, you're pulling energy. Energy can be used in your witchcraft, in your magic, in your whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but you gotta practice. I mean, that's what witchcraft is. It's a practice.
With people saying that witchcraft doesn't like fit their life, sometimes it makes me think that people feel like that if you're a witch, that means you have to dress like a witch, you have to listen to witchy music, you have to only consume witchy media, you have to have your whole house has to be a witchy aesthetic, you have to walk up to your room and be like, hi, I'm a witch and I'm wearing a hat and my broom is in the... Like, it doesn't mean that. And I feel like a lot of times people like take it as that. And so they're like, oh, it doesn't fit my life because I don't want to walk around like advertising myself as that 24/7. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do any of those things.
Like, no one even has to know that you are a practitioner. I mean, that's what we call it in the broom closet for a reason.
Yep.
But, I mean, people do think that.
Yeah. I want to say something about manifestation because 100% there is spell working for this podcast and for all that, right? But the thing is, you can't cast a spell and be like, I want a successful podcast without doing the work. I mean, we're recording at least weekly. I'm recording almost every day. Tonight, which is, you know, the 25th of January, I am recording 3 different sessions. This is number 2 of the 3. I'm constantly posting to my social media because my software lets me have little clips, and Crystal knows because she gets tagged in them all the time. I start promoting it before I schedule it to come through. There's a lot of work. I'm editing it behind the screen. But then again, I am giving a path that I have all these different platforms. So whatever platform you're listening on, I have a million different ways for the magic to make it to me too. Cast a spell, want to make $1 million, and then not do anything. There has to be routes and paths for it as well.
Scream mundane before magic. You can't do a healing spell, have a broken arm, and not go to the doctor.
Exactly.
Like, you have to take care of yourself mundanely for the magic to work. That would be like not putting gas in your car and then doing a spell that your car is going to drive. It is just not going to happen. It's not physically possible. And then incorporating your magic back into the mundane. Like, everything is a balance. Everything is a cycle. Like, you have to work through it. You can't just water one plant and do nothing else.
And you got to have the headspace too. Like, you have to be there and be open to what you're working with. Because if you're like crying and emotional, if you're trying to do, I don't know, career spell, but if your mind is crying because you think your career is over because whatever reason, it's not going to work. It's not, because you're already giving it that doubt effect. So I agree. You know, you think on a physical aspect, Sarah, and I'm going to go with the, you know, mentality wise, you got to be there. And that's another thing I noticed with a lot of practitioners too, is they don't factor in their mental state. They think, oh, I'm just going to do this and it's going to work. No, that's where the healing part also is. You know, that's the part where you're like, okay, my mind is clear. I feel balanced. I feel good. I feel energized. Not, I've been crying for the last week because, you know, my marriage is over. You know, not saying mine is, because we're not going to put that in any manifestation, because I'm very happy where I am. Love you, honey. But you know what I mean? Like, you have to be there when you're doing your working. And I think that also puts a lot of witches off too, because they feel that they can't do anything because they're not capable of doing it mentally, which worries me too, because it's like, you can get there. There's ways to help, if you talk to a spiritual counselor, you can talk to a psychologist or anyone, that can help you try and get that mental state back. You do got to do a lot of steps before being able to be a practitioner and actually like jump into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
My mental health ties a lot into my practice because that's a journey for me, and it's always going to be. It's always going to be something that I have to work on and I have to work with. But that plays directly into my practice. If my mental health is something that is rocky and I always have to work on, it makes sense that a majority of my practicing is I spend an ungodly amount of time grounding outside every single day. And sometimes carving out the hour to sit outside is not as easy as other days. But you know what? I'm going to do it, because if I don't sit outside, like, I can tell the darn difference. So I spend a lot of time in my practice grounding. I spend a lot of time meditating. I spend a lot of time doing shadow work. But it's because I need to do those things in order to do the other things in my practice that I want to do. Because if I don't work on me, then I'm not going to be able to work on anything else.
Hey, she said the no word for me. She said
I
shadow
know.
work.
I know. I looked right at you.
Yeah, we talked
Said shadow.
We talked about that last podcast
Yeah.
too. I was like,
we're talking about
it's
you.
important unless you're Crystal, because she's a boss bee and she can do it anyway.
Had that conversation on one of our other podcasts too, and I was like, yeah, don't listen to what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Listen to everyone else when they say shadow work is something you need to do, because you do. I'm just an idiot, and I'm like, nah, I
Don't
got
do
this.
as I do, dude.
Oh, yeah, don't do what I
Yep.
do. Yep. Because it's true, though. I'm an idiot, but I find different ways to do shadow work without actually doing it the traditional or the way most people do shadow work. I do it more in my spell work, or I just scream to the universe. You know what I mean? I found other ways of
good method.
release. Yeah, facts. Usually I'm in my truck driving to work, and I just scream.
I love yelling for cleansing too. When I'm cleansing like a space, best believe I'm shouting. I'm gonna be banging a panic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some noise and you're getting out.
Or how about like listening to your favorite like really hard song, and you're just like yelling it, screaming, like singing, but you're not really singing because you're actually yelling it. You're just so mad or whatever, you're trying to release. I've done that a million times. Or like I said in my live earlier, if it's like pouring outside in the rain and you go outside in the rain and you just kind of lay there and you let the rain wash away whatever toxic, mindset you have, and just like, it's kind of like a cleansing, but at the same time, it's a release too, because the rain's washing all that. Then I'm screaming in the rain too, like me, Mother Nature. I swear, she has to hate me because I'm always yelling. She's like, what?
I'll either lay in the rain or I'll dance in the rain.
Yes.
Depends on what the vibe is. I also love swinging in the rain, like on a swing set in the rain, like feel like you're flying through the air while it's raining. That's a top tier feeling. But yeah, I feel that with me and Mother Nature. I sit outside and I do grounding, or I do cloud scrying or meditation, whatever the day calls for, but I'm outside anywhere between like 1 to probably like 5 hours a day. And like, I work a full-time job. I do lives. I do a lot of stuff, but like, it's really important to me to be able to return the shit back to the earth. So I go outside and I sit my butt on the ground, or I have a giant rock that's right by my well. And so I'll sit on this big rock, because I can like fully lay down on the rock with my dog. Like, it's a huge rock.
Just make me jealous over here. Shit, I don't
Right.
got my yard. Damn.
Outside, my dog loves the rain. I mean, he's a husky shepherd, so cold, rain, whatever. But I'll go outside with him in the rain. He doesn't care. I don't care. We'll come in completely soaked. We all have a fenced-in backyard, so I have to leash walk him. I'll walk outside in my bare feet and just start pushing all of it out into the ground. Rain, shine, whatever. I can't swing here in Florida because of the lightning. I'd probably get struck by lightning. But,
Yeah. Safety first.
Yeah.
Don't swing on it. Don't get on metal. When
it's lightning.
Yeah.
My dog, she requires sunbathing. If she
Yeah.
doesn't get to sunbathe, she's in a bad mood.
I can't even get mine in the house during the summer months because both my dogs are just laying there and they're just like looking at you like, I'm like, come on, let's go. Gotta get inside. And I'm just like, you gotta come get me. I'm like, I ain't going out there. It's too hot. Like, what you mean?
I also love traveling in my area because I live in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So just driving like right up the road, you see like the beautiful mountains. Like my drive to work every morning, I see the mountains. Like my post office, if you're standing outside the post office, it should be illegal to have that beautiful of a view. Like the Walmart, you can stand in the Walmart parking lot and literally see the mountains. Like it's criminal how beautiful it looks just standing there. So I love going and just being able to like see the mountains and just like, it's great.
Okay. So you got to debunk something for me because I've been messing with a friend. Well, she's not really a friend at work anymore. But anyways, I used to joke with her. I was like, hey, we're going to move to the Appalachian Mountains. And she's like, for what? I was like, because I want to move in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm like, sweet. Yeah. Hey, the little myth, though, is you can't go outside at night and you gotta shut your curtains.
It gets creepy.
Does hit really? I want you to tell me, what is it like living there? And the whole myths and, shit that people like to talk about, is it really like that?
So my back porch, I've sit on my back porch, I used to. Okay, I should reference it. At night, I used to sit on my back porch with the light off because the stars are beautiful. So I would sit outside on my back porch with my dog at night, and then my dog would start growling and like looking in the grass. And so like I would flip on the light and there'd be nothing there and it would freak me out. And so I would start putting the dog in the house because I didn't like her alerting to nothing. That stressed me out. But I would just hear the most strange noises, or like it would feel really eerie, like when it's like the middle of the night. So now I just sit in my garage when it's dark. And like when I check the mail, I like scurry out there with a flashlight and I check my mail. And if I like want to sit on my porch, I put my porch light on and I put my floodlight on. And to be honest, it still creeps me out. And to preference this, when I did not live in the foothills of Appalachia, I lived like in a different area, still kind of rural area or whatever. I could walk around outside in the middle of the night. I could walk my entire neighborhood in the dark. I could run through the woods, go to the waterfall I was telling Angel about in my last podcast at night in the middle of the woods, and it did not freak me out. But being here, I do not like being in the woods at night. It freaks me out. I've heard like singing or like chanting in the woods, and that's a heck no. Heck no. If I'm hearing chanting in the woods, I'm getting out of there. I'm not staying in that. I'm not staying there. So I definitely feel like they're true. I feel like they're true. It gets eerie at night.
So just
but I like
let everyone
it.
know.
It's like a fun thing. I like to play with it sometimes. I like to walk outside and be like, is something gonna get me? So, but I do live alone, so I try to like be wary with that because like the only thing here to comfort me is my dog.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, not me. I live in the city now. I miss my country.
Me too.
Rude.
I miss Alaska.
Rude.
Alaska
needing a bigger
was
house.
like that. Alaska was gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. But at night, I don't know if it was the bears or the spirits that were like the woods. Yeah, the woods would come alive, and we would camp all the time, right? I remember one time we had an R-pod, and it was not windy, which is rare because it's usually really windy and like foggy in Kodiak. And something started shaking the R-pod. And it wasn't a bear, because when we got up in the morning, no footprints whatsoever. And bears coming through your campground is so normal. You would wake up and see all the footprints. Have no clue. It was making the weirdest noises. I'm like, okay, good thing we have like 30 guns in here right now, because it was scary. But it's gorgeous. But it's just whatever's out there. I think Alaska has Bigfoot, too, so it could be an elemental that was out there messing with us.
So I want to bring something up because as we're talking, I got a text message from my friend Jen, and her and I, we went to this it was like an antique/metaphysical shop today. It was brand new. It's only been open like a month. And when we went there, I mean, it was homey, it didn't feel commercialized or anything like that. But is it just me, or am I the only one that really thinks that a lot of the metaphysical shops are very commercialized and they don't feel authentic anymore? Oh, well, you're both laughing and shaking your head. What did I just say?
No, it's a conversation we just had because I was talking about my anxiety over the Wisp exchange and how I ordered from Sarah Lee and it's not here yet. And like the tracking just like is saying it's not going to come until the 29th. So I panic bought from Amazon because going to the shops here were so expensive. Like so expensive for a half an ounce. It's like $10. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Or like how I bought your tea and I was like, I had to control myself because I was like, this is so cheap. I'm going to buy this, and this,
Everyone always says that.
Yeah. I feel
our
like
last podcast. Oops, sorry.
Yeah. I feel like it is really, really, really commercialized. That's why, I'm going to have Sarah Lee come on. I have a friend named Lindsay, and I showed Sarah this box. She does something called 888 crate, and so I got one of the crates, and, just the stuff that kept coming out. I mean, there's tarot cards. It's like a subscription box, but not like a commercialized subscription box. So I'll send you pictures of everything I got too, because I bought hers from her too, because I'm panicking about the stuff coming from Sarah Lee.
Yeah.
The last podcast Angel and I did, we talked about how overpriced spiritual stores are in person. You can find the diamond in the rough where it hasn't been commercialized and done up, but so many of the metaphysical stores are trying to charge you an insane amount of money for an amethyst shard. Why is this tiny piece of amethyst $30?
Yep. And they're like, oh, it's a dream amethyst from this area. And you're like, okay. The property is still the same, though, guys. It doesn't matter if it came from this area or that area. It's still going to get the same property value. You're still going to get the same energy from it. Yeah, I agree. Because when we went there, I was like, I'm looking at the stuff. And it was weird because she had herbs there. And I was like, oh, cool. I'll just grab a couple. I have every freaking herb you can think of, all right? But I always like to throw a little extra in there, and I also like to help small shops. Well, she had this black jar that had what I thought was black salt. It was not black salt because I was like, oh, is this black salt? I was like, I need some. I didn't want to make, I'm being lazy. I didn't want to make my own black salt. I really should. I'm just being lazily and I just don't want to. So I was like, oh, I'll get some black salt. And I was like, yeah, can I get some black salt? And she's like, that's not salt. I was like, oh. It looks like black salt. What is it? And she's like, it's black sand from Iceland. I was like, hold up. What? She's like, yeah, and it's not for sale. I was like, so I'll pay whatever you want. I was like, black sand? Legit black sand? She's like, yeah, I actually picked it up, put it in a bag from when I went to go visit Iceland, and I brought it back. She's like, this is all I have of it. I was like, oh. She gave me 2 ounces of it for free.
Oh, wow.
All because she says, well, do you have a connection with Iceland? I was like, well, I have a connection with the Nordic world. I was like, I work a lot with Loki. And then she's like, and she was crying. And I'm a closed person. If I don't know you yet and, in the witch community, I'm not going to tell you my whole, who I work with. It's just not how that works. But my friend Jen's looking at me it's all weird. And she's like, well, do you work with anyone else? And I was like, I mean, I do. She's like, anyone of the Nordic? She was literally crying. I was like, okay, listen. I was like, I work with, so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want anyone to think any weird to me. But, I was like, I work with these 2. And they're like, she's like, okay. So she goes and gets the jar, puts 2 out. She's like, this is for free. She's like, don't even worry about it. And I was like, why? She's like, because the 2 other deity names you gave me, people don't actually know much about them. So the fact that you knew them and how to say them properly with the tongue rolling and all that and the articulation, she goes, I can tell you actually do work with them. She's like, the fact that you said Loki, everyone works with Loki and, the aesthetic form of it, which she's not wrong. She's like, if you would have said Thor or Odin, I would have did the same thing. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Thor and Odin. But she's like, you said Fenrir, and you said, see, look, I'm already just throwing that there. And I'm going to sit there at the other one.
Like she said, bad with secret.
I can't even keep the secret to save my life. I'm like, I promised I would not say their names. But yeah, so I was like, okay. So then it brought me back to the whole thought process. Are we keeping things closed off for a reason? Why wouldn't she give me the sand just because I might have just worked with Loki. Like, why did I have to give her minor deities for her to accept that I can utilize this sand properly?
I think that dives us into the aesthetic versus
yep.
the actually practicing.
Yeah, because
That was a segue.
Yeah, Thor, Odin, Loki, those all come from Marvel movies now. So, I mean, everybody, like, we were talking about all the big names before. Like, anybody can be like, I work with so-and-so, and they never touch anything, Or just
What are
walk
the most
around.
common that you hear people working with?
Lucifer, Lilith.
I was say Lilith is definitely one.
Yeah.
Aphrodite.
Morrigan.
Yep. Speaking of which, I just got cards in that box I was talking about. She gave me cards on that. Like, I'm insane. I'll send you it. Yeah. Like, she gave me this crate box, and I'm like, ooh. And it was Morgan. I was like, I was thinking about this too. So I'm like, she read my mind,
She also read your mind with that cloth.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, and the Wheel of the Year cloth. Like, it's, like, insane. I was like, that's so awesome. She's also the one, remember my Lilith statue? She gave me that when I bought the planner for the last Wisp, because every time I do something, I go to friends first, Before we get into the aesthetic, I just want to say, I want to give the right name so that people aren't like, well, she keeps talking about Sarah Lee. Like, who's the Sarah Lee? Her company's name is... Where'd my receipt go? Phases of the Moon Mama. And I think it's Euphorium and oh my god, Apothecary. I almost couldn't
Apothecary,
say that.
yeah.
Almost could not. And I want to run at Apothecary. I almost didn't say it. I spent $21 on 15 different herbs.
Oh yeah,
which is crazy good pricing.
Yeah, and they're a half ounce each.
Yeah, I told her that last time when I always buy from her too. I'm like, girl, your prices for being in California are stupid. Like, her prices are more like Ohio prices, not California prices.
Definitely not Florida prices, because I would have gone to one of these and not qualified for Wisp at $15.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like $15 for one. And I'm like,
Yeah. No, I get it. And going back to the whole shop thing, like, we have, I don't know how many shops around you guys that you guys have, but in my area, the most famous one shut down because one of the owners passed away from cancer. But they were open for 20 some years. And that was the first place. It was called the Hidden Path. It was in Struthers. The best place I ever went to. It's where I started my practice at. One person, a friend of mine, was like, hey, let's go to this shop. She was, claiming to be a witch. We went there and I'm like, what is this place? Like, this is so cool. And it didn't feel like a shop. It felt like a cottage. And that's when I loved it so much, because I was like, it's very homey. It's even warm in here. And then the way her crystals were laid out is you can roam your hand over them. And she was totally fine with you touching them because she always had some type of incense going in that very specific room more than any other room to help clean them after you might, touch them to see if, they vibe with you, whether it's hot or cold in your hand, whatever, you get. That's where I started it. Now, after that shop shut down, we've had multiple shops try and open. Mm-hmm. None of them stay open very long in this area. It's always tarot decks, oracle decks, the crystals, like we said earlier, stupid expensive. The herbs are stupid expensive. And it's like, I can go make my own bath oils. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying $29 for a 1 ounce bottle of bath oil when I can go make it for $6-7 and get the same value and property of it. And it's my energy that I put into it. But they always want this, expensive things. Like, yes, I know you're paying for their time and their energy to make it. But come on, like, can we get a cottage style metaphysical shop, please? With a fireplace and maybe some tea that I can sit down and drink on a rainy day at your shop.
I think that plays into the aesthetic thing, like, where it's really nice that it's growing and we have the ability to talk about our craft and our practices a lot more openly. But the more popular the aesthetic gets, the worse the price gouging gets. And the more it is less close-knit familial, we're talking to each other, like community based, it gets a lot more commercialized and like fast business, just trying to make money. Because here in the town that's close by where I'm at, it's more like a tourist town because of the foothills and all the wine vineyards and all of that junk. So it's very price gougey. It's very expensive. And when you walk in, it's very bright and it feels like a tourist shop. It does not feel like a spiritual shop. And then when you get more into like the country, your spiritual shops become mixed with your smoke shops, and there's no like separating the two. When you get more into like the small town country areas, if you want a spiritual store, you have to go to the smoke store to get that spiritual stuff. And then it's very price gouged again.
Right. Because here, like the shop I went to today, she was antique and spiritual. And it was funny because she actually told me, she was like, yeah, there's more spiritual stuff I want to get, because she has like, bones there. She has very wide range of oddities, which was kind of cool, But what made me a little upset was she kind of made the comment, yeah, I'm trying to gauge my area to see how spiritual I can get. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's why I have it attached as also an antique shop. I was like, so are you worried that you're going to get shut down because people might not like what you're trying to, offer them? And that's honestly what it was. And I've never heard a shop owner do that, like say that to me before. She actually is worried on how spiritual she can be because she's afraid she's going to get pushback from the community itself.
I know in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of pushback against some spiritual stores that would do tarot readings. They were trying to get them shut down and closed and not be allowed to do witchcraft or have witchcraft stores in Pennsylvania more recently.
Huh. I think I seen that on TikTok, actually. There was this one shop that was talking about it, and they actually, had to go and
they had to, do,
case.
legal action.
Yeah, present their case and stuff. Yeah, I did see that, and I was like... Oh.
It's the Amish communities are very strong in Pennsylvania, and the being more conservative is also very true. I know a lot of people that live in Pennsylvania will cross over to Ohio to get things because, one, the price difference, and two, Ohio is much less conservative than Pennsylvania is. So I know a lot of people will cross over because Pennsylvania is trying to keep it very old-fashioned, Quaker-esque, Amish-esque vibes.
Yeah, I don't think I can handle that. I like stuff. And I also like to show how, who I am and stuff like that. So, I got this new house, here in October. I'm very curious to see what my neighbors think after I start taking care of my outside theme aesthetic. Because I don't hide it. You know what I mean? I have very specific iron designs that go on my house. Have windmills, oh my God. Wind chimes, bamboo style, that are very oh, what is that? Because it's not normal. You know what I mean?
I have a no soliciting sign that says you'll get sacrificed to
the old gods,
not the new.
I love that.
Yep. I'm very curious.
Funny is sometimes I'll have church papers scattered on my ground where it looks like they ran away from my door. And I'm like, I did not mean for my sign to make you go running. But hey, I've gotten no random knocks on the door since I put that sign in. Not one.
I love that.
I need to get something like that because I have a regular no solicitor sign on my door, but yet they don't look. So maybe I need to get a little more
get
creepy.
one that says you'll get sacrificed to the old gods, not the new, and they'll listen. Especially in my Bible Belt state, nobody's knocking on the door.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that tomorrow.
Yeah. I actually got a package today, and I guess they were scared by the vibe at my house because they left it way down in the edge. So I'm like, what was your intentions if you're leaving there? Because the dog is very highly medicated today, so I know it wasn't him scaring them off. So I think the vibe of my front door just scared them.
Listen, I had an Amazon delivery, and somehow I got sent to now this is my old house. And I have a very elderly woman that used to live next to me. Well, my package got delivered there. Well, it just so happens that very specific box was for a Pandora box exchange. To get my vibe. So it had a couple books and a tarot deck in there that was very dark based on purpose. yeah, she came knocking at my door. Crystal, this is yours, honey. And I was like, you opened my package? Well, I didn't look to see the name. I just opened because I thought it was mine. I'm like, if you didn't
Kind of
order
weird.
yeah, like you didn't order anything, so you just, okay, whatever. I was like, whatever, she's older, no big deal. And then the look on her face was just like in, not fear. Flower pot, and it was huge. And it literally spiraled out like a cauldron. And she was so confused. She's like, why would you have something like that? You love Halloween, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I'm Ellen. That's exactly
It's always you just love Halloween.
Like, that's it. It's just a Halloween vibe all year, though. But I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, I am who I am. It's not going to change anything. I also don't care what anyone thinks of me. So I like confrontation. So when someone comes at me with some uneducated facts about witchcraft, I love to prove them wrong, especially when they try and tell me that my gods are fake and imaginary. And that
I love a good debate.
Oh, yeah, especially when they're like, my god was created. I was like, well, I mean, if you want to go further
I wish.
back.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's true, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's play. Let's do it. Like, let me prove you wrong. Let me throw history at you. Which history? Which culture? I can throw them all if you want.
Literally in my area, if someone asks, hey, are you religious? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm spiritual. I do witchcraft, those kind of things. And I'll leave it at that. And they're like, oh my gosh, do you summon demons? That is always the first question.
Always.
Question number one is always that.
Every single time. Automatically go to the dark. But then when you say, well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And they're like,
then they get back. They aren't expecting that answer.
It's like checkmate. Now, your move. Yeah. No,
so we
I
definitely scurried away. So what do you think, Crystal, about people using witchcraft as an aesthetic versus actually practicing it?
So I actually get annoyed at people that have use the aesthetic over actually practicing. And I can always tell them anytime I go to, so we have a couple like festivals. We have a pagan festival out my way in Ohio, like an hour and a half up north. And every year when I go, it's me pulling my hair out because it is the fully dressed. Now, don't get me wrong. I like to dress up too. I like to put pretty hats on. I like to kind of go however I want to dress. I might be like fancy or I might not. I don't know. Whatever I feel like. But it's the fact that when you start talking to them because you get really excited, like, oh, cool, new person, let's talk. And then they have no idea what you're talking about or they have no idea of just a basic type of information. It annoys me because you're like, you literally live off the aesthetic of it. Like, did you watch The Craft? Did you watch Practical Magic? Is that what you think it is? Like, oh, okay. I play with herbs too. Okay, I like playing with candles too. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I like to sit in a circle too and summon stuff, but they don't actually know what they're doing. And it really does irritate me. So I don't like aesthetic people. I don't. I think it's disrespectful to us that actually work within the magic, work within the practice and make it part of their daily life. Like, I don't force what I do on anyone in my family, but, my kids are very understanding. Like, my oldest actually asked for his own Mjolnir, which was really nice and refreshing. But my youngest son still believes in the Christian God, which I'm totally fine with. I'm not upset about it. But when you look at the people that bring the aesthetic and, that's the only thing they do is they just, I have a tarot cards and oracle, but they only use them as decoration, or they have crystals and they only use them for decoration. That annoys me because it's like, you're disrespecting something that I live. So, I mean, for me, I think it's disrespectful. I'm just going to leave it there.
I definitely agree that it is disrespectful. I know someone personally, obviously not going to say who they are, but I know someone personally that they use it for the aesthetic, and they use it for the aesthetic in a way that makes me very, very frustrated, because they are a person that should have, mutual respect for me, given who they are. And so when they know that it's an important practice to me, and they actually used to judge me for it because they were very Christian originally, they judged me very hardcore for my practice. And now they collect, I'm going to use the word collect. They collect a lot of crystals and a lot of candles, and they collect a lot of dragon stuff and a lot of fairy stuff, like a lot of dragon stuff. But and then they'll walk around and be like, oh, well, I'm going to use this crystal today because it has this property. But then they don't know about the crystal. They don't know anything about how to use it. Nothing. And then they like to show off all these new things that they get. And I'm like, well, funny, you got like 80 new items this week. I wonder if you know anything about any of them. And then when people start talking about like dragons and fairies and then acting like they work with them because they have a plastic dragon statue and some fairy posters, makes me want to literally go crazy. And then they have like a mermaid statue, so all of a sudden now they have to be involved in that, and like that drives me up the wall. It's so like disrespectful, and like just makes me look at you like, why are you talking about stuff that you have no clue about? First you're rude originally about it, and now because it's popular, now you're involved in it, and then when the next thing is popular, you're going to be on that. But I don't like how people look at like, oh, you can be a witch for aesthetic, but I feel if you were to just use other religions for an aesthetic, you would get like hardcore canceled.
But sure.
Since it's witchcraft, you're not getting canceled.
Yeah, if I try to wear a certain type of headpiece, I'm 100% disrespecting that culture. Like, I've seen it over and over again. If, some people are like, do you even know what that headpiece is? And I've seen other people be like, oh, I just found it at, the Goodwill or something like that, and they'll be like, that's disrespectful, that's my culture, that's my religion, and they get so mad, and they're allowed to, because it's what they live, it's what they do, it's what they've been their whole life. It's the same way, but yet if we get offended or try and call people out, then we're just being rude, or we're gatekeeping.
I was about to say
but we're not really gatekeeping, you know what I mean? Because you're more than welcome to practice it, but don't just buy all this stuff because it looks pretty. Blood, sweat, and tears, this practice. You know what I mean? I literally worked it from emotional mess of pain and suffering, tragedy, to I'm better than I've ever been before, and I feel fantastic because I feel like I'm on top of the world. You can't always be, I'm just going to say it's just disrespectful. And the fact that someone's going to actually utilize my dragons and not know what they're about.
Yeah, Crystal's going to be mad. I didn't need to mention it. So you can pick anything out of my space, hold it up to me. I could tell you probably where I got it. I could tell you the things that I know about it. I could tell you a crap ton about it. And all the stuff that I have has taken me a long spanking time to gather. I didn't all of a sudden in one day gather up everything. Like, I've been collecting this crap for like over 12 years. Like, it's not just something I randomly picked up, and now I have 80 things and I can't tell you one single thing about any of the things.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that she doesn't realize that some crystals cannot be together with other crystals in the same room.
Right.
They're just literally canceling it out.
Or even deities. Even deities can't be together,
Yeah. Well, you know what though? Let me just say on that one. So, I've talked to other people before, and worked with similar deities of others. What I say, like, okay, so I learned very quickly that Morrigan and Lilith, two of my main patronesses, cannot be on the same altar or in the same space together, because they're literally like polar opposite of each other, where they're fighting for control. I've heard from others, though, that it's okay. They can still be in the same room. They just have to be on their own table or blah, blah, blah. I've heard then other people say, no, they're fine just being together. Who's wrong and right? You know what I mean? Like, honestly, who's wrong and right? I've also heard other people that, will be like, you can only work with one deity. There's no reason you should work with more than one. You're like, dang, you better tell that to the 4 deities I work with very heavily, because I'm pretty sure if you told them, they're going to laugh in your face. not to mention all the minor, that I have as well.
Yeah. I learned very, very quickly Azazel and Raphael cannot be in the same room at the same time. So when Azazel's in my life, I have to find some other being to work for healing because of their history, which I'll actually talk about in my life, they will not. Like, he won't let him in. I can't call him. And I can work on my own with Raphael really well because I have no problem. And Ariel, like, it's more Ariel because I'm more of an animal healer anyway. But yeah, no, they absolutely despise anybody or each other. And if anybody tries to say they either don't have the actual deities or they don't know the history and they're not hearing the conflict.
Has anyone ever heard of minor deities or just deities in general? We'll go with that. Who actually refuse to have an altar or anything to represent them, but they still expect you to be working with them?
I have heard of it. I haven't personally come across any in my path, but I've heard that.
So I have two, of course, Nordic-based, that I tried to get like a small little figurine, statue, carved out of wood, very expensive stuff. I literally was going to pay the stupid money for it just to have a display to give them honor. Tell me why I kept going back and forth on purchasing it or getting it to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to get it. But at the same time, they still expect me to work within them. They just don't want anything like as a display. I've never heard of that before. And I tried to research it. I'm like, is this normal? Like, does anyone else have this issue? But I did find out that, like Fenrir and Jorgemundr, they just don't. They don't care. They're like, you're going to work with me or you're not. I don't need something to, to be in your room to have everyone know that you work with me. You either work with me or don't. I don't need to be broadcasted to the world.
I feel like that has to do with like the materialization of things. Like the craft and the practice is so old. Back when, way back in time, if you're packing up camp and you're moving from place to place because you don't, the word just evaded my mind. The people that literally would move from place to place, they didn't live in one specific place. I don't know what they, man, after this, I'm going to feel so dumb. But they would move around from place to place where they live. They pack up everything onto their, their horse and buggy or whatever, and they're moving. You're not carrying around pounds and pounds of junk with you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I feel like some of the older deities and things, like, you don't need to have like a material thing. It's how you work with them with like your energy and your being and your spirit and your soul and stuff like that, rather than, well, how much physical representations of them you carry along with you. That's just my opinion on it.
And I think a lot of practitioners forget that too, is that you don't have to have a $100, carving of your deity. You don't have to have a $100 and some metal statue of them. You don't need anything. You know what I mean? As long as you convey with them however they choose to convey with you, that's what it is. Shit. No one needs anything. You know what I mean? It's witchcraft started from nothing. It's literally just a thought that manifested into something that turned into be physical. If you really think about it, I mean, who was the very first person that was like, I'm going to do magic? Where did it start? Was it alchemy that started it? Or did you just feel better because you jumped in a stream and you were having a bad day? Was it someone that went hunting for herbs to make medicine for their ailing husband? Who started it? Where did it really originate from? Where did it actually just manifest from? And who was like, this is magic?
Yeah.
I think that all the time. I'm like, come on. Who really thought of it? Because there's too many people and too many cultures that we all have our own different type of where it began stories. Who's right? Who was the first one? Because it didn't start in Salem. Just going to say that. No, it never started in Salem. That was like a fluke. Because our country, was made last, you might as well say, or formed last compared to everyone else. Everyone else is so much older than us. Where did it originate from? Who started it?
I think it's the beauty of not knowing. Because it was a word, like everything was originally shared, obviously word of mouth. We had like our cave drawings and paintings, but it was mostly word of mouth because community was so important. Nowadays, we're all meant to be so separated and individualized. And, I can touch back to what I was saying, conspiracy, we're much powerful when we're together. They've tried to remove the community amongst people. We don't have the village anymore. People are not just sitting and sharing their experiences. Also, people nowadays, hate to say it, are lazy. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want to like do things. We want everything. We want that instant gratification. We want instant dopamine. And so we're not spending that time anymore. But so the beauty of knowing that all of these different places that couldn't communicate and we were just sharing stories, we all worked our way towards a similar direction. And so I love being able to sit and be like, maybe it was the woman trying to save her husband. Maybe it was just someone running around in the woods and they jumped in the river and they're like, you know what? I feel 10 pounds lighter. I feel so much better returning to the earth. And I feel like not knowing is what keeps people driving to find out more. Maybe that's the philosopher in me, but the questioning everything and just diving in that's the beauty of it. Well, if you knew everything, you would have no reason to do anything.
I agree. And everyone's perspective is meant to be different. It's not that it is different, it's meant to be different. Because I know in Celtic lore, it really, like you said, it is 100% word of mouth. That's why there's no real heavy information on Celtic magic, because if it's not druid-based or shaman-based, it's dead language. It's dead information. Nordic is almost identical too, because yes, they had the rune writings, but people don't actually know the breakdown of the runes. They think it was depicted in this language with this part of the alphabet, but the drawings on the stones, you don't really know because it is still a form of a dead language. Just like Gaelic is a dead language. People think they can speak Gaelic perfect. Now, there are a lot that can over in Ireland, of course, but it is still a form of a dead language. Latin is still a dead language. People claim to be able to speak perfect Latin, but the way they speak Latin now is not the same dialect of Latin they spoke back then. So what you think you're reading, the word blah, blah, blah might be body of, can actually be, the soul of. Something completely opposite of what we think it means. But back then, the way they spoke it, and the way they represented it is not the same. That's why so many different types of cultures and witchcraft practices, it's dead. So we're literally finding this out from, and this is me always going back to past life stuff. Knowing things from a past life, being able to just bring information that you didn't even know where it came from, but you just really know about it well. Information that's just downloaded out of nowhere, had to come from somewhere at some point. Either someone gave it to you or you've always known it because it's been passed down from time period to time period, or realm to realm, or dimension to dimension, however you want to look at it. But that's always how I think of it, because some of the information we know now, where did it come from? Because it makes sense on how it's depicted, but where did we get the information? Because every culture has that dead information, because witchcraft wasn't written down because most people didn't even know how to write. Okay,
also, it wasn't something you wanted people knowing you were doing.
No, definitely.
You weren't about to write it down and advertise it for people. Right. You were keeping that a big secret. And that's something that's a little frustrating when trying to do research. You hit a lot of roadblocks. Because I will say 10 years ago, it was easier to research than it is now because it wasn't so popularized. And so then 10 years ago, the issue was finding the information. Now you have the issue of first sorting out all the junk and then trying to find the information is a pain in the booty because it's dead. That's why I'm so much not traditional, because the difficulty of being traditional, how do you know that you're actually following something traditional and not something that someone just pulled out of their butt and said is what is traditional?
And I'm going to agree with you on that, because I honestly, when I read, I have tons of books, don't get me wrong. I've been doing this for well over a decade and a half, maybe longer. I stopped counting. But I have so much information, but what's real and what's not real? or what's just one person's perspective. I've, over maybe the last 5 years, have stopped always looking at everyone else's information unless it's history related. And I'm going with experimentation. I'm going to try it and see how it works for me. I don't know what I'm doing all the time. I'm just, I get a reason that I need to use this very specific herb with this very specific herb and this oil, where I have to put it on my body. Trial and error. Of course, I'm going to check and make sure it's not toxic or anything like that. But you know what I mean? Like, it is the alchemy part of me where I'm going to try it and see what happens. Just like when I was talking at the one podcast, when I was working with war water. A lot of people are like, oh, if you, get war water on your skin, or, if it comes out of your jar, it's going to be pushed back to you. So the hexing person you just did is going to, throw back to you. Like I said the last time, I call bullshit, heavily bullshit, because if I don't feel that way, or I think like, yeah, that's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. That's how a lot of people need to realize that, never mind. Sorry, my kid's staring at me and I'm like, never mind. He says, what? I should
Actually,
say,
with that,
this
would be a good wrapping up point. We just hit the hour and a half, so yep.
Sorry about that. He's just
it's fine. Yeah, like I said, we just hit the hour and a half, so this is like a good wrapping up point. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was so fun to join the both of you and be able to talk to the both of you.
Our little gibby gab sessions.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be back next week too. And then Sarah, you and I have more coming up too, so people can look forward to that as well.
And if you guys ever want to have me back, I'll totally join.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, good ladies. Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
So much fun chatting with Crystal and Sarah. I just love the energy of this episode, and I hope you do too. Stay tuned, Crystal, and I have more in store for you. Keep an eye for more of Sarah and my series as well. Until next time, stay true to yourself and follow your path.